Do you know those people who are just totally soul-sucking vampires? Those leeches that just take and take until there's nothing left? Newsflash, these people like to tell you that they're your friends, but that's just something they say to manipulate you. Today on rLounge, we learn that growing up means realizing a lot of your friends aren't really your friends. Fiancé's crazy ex-friend keeps begging for money and trying to break us up. Alright, so apologies for the length, but I wanted to include backstory of how entitled this person is. So sit back if you're ready for a story about a full-on manipulative, crazy, entitled person. We'll call her EC, entitled chick, for this story. So EC and my fiancé have had an odd past, even before I met him. In high school, he used to have a big crush on her, but she wasn't interested in him that way. They did become good friends though, and dated other people. After graduation, he went on to a serious relationship, and so did she. She was dating another woman and asked him if he'd be willing to donate sperm so that they could have a baby. He agreed so long as they worked out a proper legal contract so that he wouldn't be legally or financially responsible for the child. She agreed to this. Sometime later, fiancé and I started dating. He informs me of this agreement, asking what I think and if it'd be an issue for us. I say that I think he's being smart about it, and I respect that this was an agreement made to help a friend before I was in the picture, so I don't have an issue and I'm okay with it. This was the case until it appeared that her relationship was failing. Yep, she was one of those, surely a baby will fix it types. Both fiancé and I become more worried the more unhinged her texts become. Her relationship ended, but now she was insisting a baby would help her loneliness. While this was happening, fiancé and I were getting serious and moving into an apartment together. One day, while we're out near my parents' house, fiancé gets some alarming texts from her. She's in his dad's house, and his dad isn't home. Fiancé is texting her questions and she's replying casually as if she's doing a very normal thing. Apparently, she had let herself in with a spare key he had given her years ago for emergencies. When asked what she was doing there, she claimed she was just spending time with his cat. His cat, who isn't very social. She also was taking pics of his childhood pictures hanging on the walls so that she could have an idea of what her kids will look like. We're both incredibly disturbed, and I tell fiancé that I now have a stipulation to moving in together, that EC is not allowed to know our apartment address. She's still baby crazy and starts demanding fiancé finally donates already. Never mind the contract, she needs this baby. Fiancé gives a hard no at this because not only is she clearly mentally unwell, but we know she doesn't have the financial resources for a kid. I 100% back his choice. He tells her he can't do it and she can go elsewhere. For our time at the apartment, we lived in blissful silence from her insanity. That came crashing down a month after we moved into a house. Apparently, she was in a relationship that whole blissful period because she just got broken up with. Fiancé asked me if she can come over because she was taking it really hard. I was incredibly hesitant, but kept thinking that we did now have a large house and it'd be unfair to keep his friend away forever if they are good friends. He vouched for her that she seemed to be doing much better now. Plus, it had been 2 years. So I agreed to give her a chance. I finally met the woman I demonized as some psycho obsessed with my fiancé, and she seemed normal. I ended up spending more time with her than my fiancé since he's not great with emotional situations, and it felt like we became fast friends. She spent a few nights over while her ex was at their apartment, and we actually had a lot in common. Over several months, we became pretty close friends. We'd confide life issues in each other. I believed her excuses for every red flag showing she's still unhinged. Towards the beginning, her ex still wanted to be friends, but wanted space. Entitled chick kept trying to ask for hugs or be clingy, pushing her ex's boundaries because she wasn't over her. Sometime later, entitled chick decided to try hooking up with a man and told me she thought she may be pregnant. I started asking what she was going to do, since she was struggling to pay for even herself, and if she told the guy. She looked like the thought hadn't even occurred to her and muttered something about how she didn't think he'd want a kid. I was shocked, and when I told her she has to tell him if she gets a positive test, she suddenly agreed as if that was her plan all along. Luckily in the end, she wasn't even pregnant. After a few months of living in her apartment alone, she told me that she had started hearing a voice that isn't hers. I suggested she should see a psychiatrist, since it could be a form of schizophrenia or something similar, which is entirely manageable with professional help. She acted like she was considering this advice, but nothing came of it, and she never mentioned it again. Did I mention this chick is baby crazy? She truly cemented her dedication to her dream of becoming a single mom, not just by texting me every couple of weeks about her goal of doing so and moving away, but also by showing me her baby stuff. Oh yeah, she was prepped for any day she may have a baby. A 44-gallon long storage bin filled to the brim with baby clothes of varying sizes and genders, plus a regular 31-gallon storage bin mostly full of baby toys, books, and shoes. Now, I don't personally have any close friends with kids, but I have never met anyone with this much baby stuff pre-child. Well, anyways, one summer day I was having a rough time. I was recovering from an illness that took its toll on me, and we had a roommate at the time who was like living with a child. Entitled chick offered to come over and clean and listen to me vent. She cleaned up the mess I couldn't, and we ended up going on a drive to talk in private. I confided in her that my fiancé was back to having a huge problem giving money to people again. He did this in the past, but stopped when I asked him to because no one paid him back. He learned some of them lied and used the money for drugs, and half of them beggars weren't even his friends. Plus, this time was larger amounts in the hundreds. I was sobbing that we were months behind on rent when we shouldn't be. She seemed sympathetic but annoyed at him. She instantly suggested I dump him. I thought she was jokingly trying to be the dump him friend, but she was serious. I was genuinely baffled that she'd suggest breaking up when our lives are so entangled together at this point, and this was our first ever serious point of contention. She started trying to comfort me with, "He's my best friend and I love him, but..." and just trash-talking him. I was getting annoying because the things she was saying were just mean and two-faced. About a month or two after our serious talk, I'm checking Fiancé's bank account to see if he's stayed true to his word. Nothing shady. He'd given me permission to view his bank account whenever. What do I see? Hundreds of dollars sent to Entitled Chick. $500. Tons of small $10 to $20 amounts. $200. $300. Just nonsensical amounts. He says the $500 was because she said she was at risk of being evicted. I tell him that we can't afford to pay her rent when we're struggling to eat. He agrees to stop sending her money. I'm mostly hurt that she would take advantage of both Fiancé and me at this point. She knew we had a problem and that we were struggling financially too, and took advantage of us. She knew that I was incredibly stressed about our situation, and she didn't care. One night, she keeps bugging Fiancé for $10. He tells me he's just going to send it to her to shut her up. I tell him okay, but I'm going to call her out for it. I tell her to stop begging Fiancé for money, and she replies, "Well, I don't appreciate you calling it begging, and I get paid Friday and I'm going to pay it back. I don't like owing people money. It's who I am." I know she isn't going to, but I back down and we play friendly again. She makes an odd jab when I say that I'm just making sure that she's not taking advantage of Fiancé like other users in his life have about how she's been around longest, longer than any of his girlfriends, which I ignore because I don't feel threatened by her. By Friday, I keep reminding Fiancé to bug her about the $10 since she made a point of telling me she doesn't like owing people money. Well, apparently, she didn't like that either because she would just ignore those messages. Come Sunday, she's talking about making a will. This was presumably due to fainting spells she claimed to be experiencing at the time. We don't know if these were real, but this was the day before her doctor's appointment, which she claimed before that she hoped they would tell her she's dying at. We're both done with her dramatic crap at this point, and after reading her text out loud, I jokingly say, "So how about that $10? And we both crack up. And then he sends, "Why a will? Also, about that $10. She left him unread. Like 2 days later, Fiancé and I were talking about how we couldn't believe she still hadn't replied or said literally anything. Fiancé checks other social media and discovers that she's unfriended him on Snapchat and Facebook. I check, and she did the same to me. I'm annoyed, but not too surprised at this point because crazy's gonna be crazy. But when I look over at my fiancé, he's genuinely really hurt. He doesn't say it, but I can tell she helped reaffirm his fear that his friends only like him for his money. He does say that she was one of his longest friends and he can't believe she'd really do that over $10. I'm seeing white rage now. Fiancé goes to sleep sad, and I realize I can still message her on Facebook even though we're not friends. I decided to play dumb and ask if we did something. She claims she's taking a break from social media. That was an obvious lie because 1, she was sending me TikToks just the day before. 2, I saw she had a mutual friend added still. 3, literally who takes a break by unfriending their friends. 4, literally like the day after this combo, she updated her cover photo and profile pic. I point out the fact that we still have a mutual friend. She claims she's going from the top down. No idea what that means. No alphabetical, as my name would come before the mutual. I straight up say that it seemed kind of like Fiancé asked about the $10, then this happened. She says no, she's been super busy with work and she's planning to move. I stop replying. The next day, I catch our roommate, new roommate from before, up with the drama because I'm still seething with rage. So he goes, "What's her name?" And I tell him. He pulls up her Facebook and starts messaging her. He sends, "Hey, you got that $10? And she replies, "Who the F is this? I thought you were taking a social media break. Interesting. I keep my messenger open for friends and family." And she blocked him, We both laughed at how dumb it was, hoping it wouldn't cause Fiancé too much trouble. He enters the kitchen where we were talking and Rumi goes, "Listen, so I did message entitled chick." And Fiancé is like, "Oh, I know. I've been hearing about it. She sent me screenshots." We all laugh about it, and then she gets to me. She sends me a screenshot of her having sent Fiancé $9 and says, "Also, I don't appreciate being bugged by your roommate, seeing as I've explained to Fiancé why it took me a moment to pay it back." That's when I decided the kid gloves were off. I took my time and sent back this. I didn't ask him to, I was just talking to him, and he did it on his own. Also, it took that to get you to explain anything, so don't make it sound like you explained to Fiancé first, then roommate messaged you. It's kinda effed up that you ignored Fiancé and me every time we mentioned the $10 you owe him. Like the fact that you made a whole deal out of telling me, "I get paid Friday and I was gonna give it back," and how, "I don't like owing people money. It's who I am." To make me seem like a witch for calling you out for asking Fiancé for more handouts, but then just ignored every reminder so you don't even have the excuse that you forgot is telling. Like, if you didn't get paid, you could have just said so and not been like, "I can't read suddenly, I don't know." She didn't reply. I waited for a few hours with a typed list of things I wanted to say before likely being blocked and then sent it. Essentially, it was a long multi-paragraph wall of text in which I told her that we knew she unfriended us over this, how much she hurt Fiancé, how we both have noticed her manipulative tendencies now, how it's not about the money itself because if it was, we'd be hounding her about the $500, how the real money issue is the fact that she asked Fiancé for money knowing he has a problem saying no. We can't afford it, and it's putting stress on our relationship. I specifically mentioned how she borrowed $500 after I had literally sobbed in her car about how bad our finances were, and she still took advantage of Fiancé. I may have gone a bit petty after this and mentioned it being a recurring trend that she goes crazy after a breakup. I told her exactly why she never got to see our apartment. I directly called her out for entering Fiancé's dad's house without permission. I called her a mooch and told her she needs mental help. And she left me unread. Not gonna lie, part of me kind of hoped she would at least try to argue. I didn't want to believe someone could actually be so uncruel to others and hang them out to dry. She went on to text Fiancé as if nothing had happened. She vaguely stated that she wasn't comfortable coming over anymore, but wouldn't say why when asked. About a week later, she tried asking for $150 again, but obviously Fiancé wasn't having any of it. He played oblivious, just like I used to when she tried dialing up the self-pity. I asked him to block her after this, and he did. Another 2 weeks went by, and she texted him from a new number playing the same old game. This time, she tried laying it on hard by claiming she texted the suicide hotline and how depressed she'd been over her financial struggles. Fiancé just replied by agreeing since we've also had bad financial struggles and his anxiety had been awful and he shared his intrusive thoughts. I guess that wasn't the answer she wanted from her best friend though, because she switched the topic. She started saying that he should really break up with me because we're just not a good match. He blocked her again. When Fiancé told me this, I just burst out laughing. I guess she was trying to break us up and I finally had my confirmation. I just never imagined it would be such a sad attempt. By the way, I added up how much she borrowed just in 2022, $1,670. That's minus the $16 total she paid back. The community has some reactions. Leanne Pool 50 says, "Crumbs, I feel for you honestly. You both need to make an irrevocable break from this person. I'm fairly sure you can. But can he?" Pagan Giraffe Goddess chimes in, "My boyfriend has a friend like this, maybe a little worse. She's bipolar with schizoaffective disorder and will constantly go off her meds because she thinks they repress her personality. That would be bad enough, but then she starts doing meth and all sanity goes out the window. She gets obsessed with child trafficking and swears that everybody is a child trafficker. She's even accused my boyfriend of being a child trafficker, and she's known him since high school, and they're in their 40s now. She tried to accost a woman that was walking into a church with her baby, screaming at the lady that she was a child trafficker and that wasn't her baby and she needed to see the birth certificate. Just like you, I am so over that witch. That is only the tip of the iceberg with her. She is no longer allowed in our home. Stick to your boundaries and don't let that girl back into your or your fiancé's life again, no matter how many 'we've been friends since high school' she throws at you." The OP replies, "Oh my god, this is where I can totally see her in 15 years if she doesn't get help," which I suspect she won't since she never did when we suggested it. Thank God she's never done anything harder than shrooms. Yeah, I've made it clear she chewed up and spit out her second chance. Plus, my fiancé was so hurt after what she did, I know her manipulative tactics don't work anymore. After I sent the paragraph going off on her, he admitted the more he thought on it, he thought I was right that she was trying to break us up, as this was something I just ranted to him about. And after confirming that herself, I think that didn't do herself any favors. Like, at first I said I was okay with them staying friends if they wanted, since that's their business. But after that, hell no. It's just super weird because when she's single, she acts all weirdly entitled to my fiancé, but she also wants nothing to do with him. She isn't sexually, emotionally, or even very platonically interested in him, but she acts like she deserves his money? Like, when I called her out on the $10 at first, she said something to him along the lines of, "I could say something back, but I won't." He kept trying to ask her what, but she insisted she wouldn't go there. I can only assume she meant how I currently don't have an income because I'm disabled and trying to get on SSI. Fiancé pays me a set allowance just to keep my cards up and running, but the money mostly just goes to our shared bills and food. Apparently, that means he needs to fork over money to her somehow. Or maybe she stopped herself because she realized that was stupid? Like, girl, I actually hate having to live off his money. And then when I told her how she hurt and used fiancé and she just continued with it? The audacity. She sounds like the worst friend ever and total bonkers. Both of you should block her and literally don't respond to anything she says. She's full of crap. She's totally toxic and her toxicity strains the relationship you have with your fiancé. And she wants you two to break up because she wants to be with him. She always has. He's definitely the one that got away. Obviously your fiancé and her have a past, but that's all it is a past. And almost like a trauma bond. People grow up and grow apart. It sounds like she hasn't grown up at all. In fact, she's still dependent on others. It might be hard for your fiancé to totally break ties with her, but it's the best thing for him and you. Do you know someone like this? Let us know below. And thank you for joining us today on rLounge. Before you go, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you have something you want to say regarding today's content, share that with us in the comments below.